Okay, welcome back to Rooks. My name is Farouk again, and we're going to talk about today, what do you do and how do you communicate with your future employer? When I say your future employer, I'm not talking about an employer you may have in the future. I'm talking about after you've completed the interview and you were successful in that interview, and you know now that the employer you're about to go into bed with is going to sponsor your visa, or they've said that, they can make provisions for sponsoring applications, or they can help you take the next step in your immigration to UK. What do you do next? Because now you've been waiting 1-2 months and you've not really heard back from them at all, and you're still waiting for your COS letter. You've maybe sent one email across asking, what do you do next? And you've just been waiting all this time, and now your start date is coming up very soon. You haven't made your application and you're outside the country. What are you supposed to do next? Well, let's talk about what you should do, because some of the process is very, very straightforward. Some of it is very not, and a lot of it is a waiting game. Before I come on to the 3 things that I strongly recommend that anyone should know who is going into trying to become an immigrant, coming to UK and work on the health and care visa, skilled workers visa, is very important. I myself have gone through that process, and I've spoken to others who have gone through similar processes, and I've been fortunate enough to be on the interview side as well as the interviewee side of things. I don't know if that's a real word, pardon me, but talk to HR departments as well and see where the miscommunication kind of come from. The main issue is knowing where to start. The first thing you want to be able to familiarize yourself is with the actual process of the application. Now, you need to take responsibility on knowing what actually is supposed to happen in terms of what you need from the employer, because I'll be honest, I've said this many times, some of these employers do not know the full process in depth, or it may just be whoever's working on HR that day is not as familiar as someone else who was working the other day. So you need to be able to know the whole process of your application, especially what you need to do on your side. You should be doing your own application elements, knowledge of English, which should have already been passed, how to show the documentation for that, finances, while you're sorting all that out. But you need to know what you actually expect from your employer, because when you get to the second point, you will very much need to know this. It's not enough just to know what you're supposed to be doing. You might also have to take onus on what they should be doing. It's not ideal. In a perfect world, everybody will know their own part, but we don't live in a perfect world, and some departments are more competent than others. Some of them will get you their documents immediately, while others will not. So make sure you know your way around the whole immigration process as well, because the second part, which we were talking about right now, is very, very important. You need to send specific questions, okay? When I'm talking about specific questions, I'm not talking about what do we do next. When you send an email saying, I finished the application, I'm successful with the interview, what next? That's kind of specific, but it's also very vague as well. What you need to ask for is specifically is, please, can I have my COS letter? If they say, oh, we have not sent it off, or we've not yet requested it, or we've not yet filled out the COS letter, you need to ask them specifically, when do you think it would be available? By asking specific questions, not only does it give yourself a rough timeline, which most likely will be breached in terms of them, but if it doesn't, at least you can say, oh yeah, we said it would be ready by this time. It can help you plan, because planning is a very, very strong thing. You don't want to be in a position where your start date is in 2 months, you're outside the country, and you don't have your COS letter. That puts you in a very tight position. I'm currently hearing from different people that, we COS letters from different employers taking months, 4 months, 5 months. It's not pretty, but it's realistically what may happen. I've also heard 1 week, 2 weeks after the application, someone got the COS letter. It varies, and that's the unpredictability of it, and it's not fair. But if you apply for things way in advance, you shouldn't put yourself in that situation. Some of it is unavoidable, I'm completely aware. Some of it is, and you can only control what you can control, really. So sending specific questions would help you get through this process a lot quicker. When you're asking specific things, that would just help everybody's case. And the final thing I strongly recommend when you're trying to communicate with your employer, your future employer, whatever you want to call it, is following up, but respectably. There are a lot of people who are working, in the NHS in an HR department, or even the person who did your interview. The person who did the interview may be able to lobby a little bit more, may not be able to do that as well. But you don't want to be following up every day, sending emails saying, when can I get my COS letter? Please, I'm waiting every day, because you're just going to cause email junk for them and they might miss it. But if you do this respectably, Not that you leave it every 1 month, you send it one email saying, if you haven't gotten it, saying, when am I getting this? When am I getting this? But you want to follow up in a respectful manner saying, email maybe weekly. It varies, there's no hard and fast rule for this. But all I'm trying to emphasize is don't bombard them with emails. And when you're following up again, follow the simple rule of episode 2. Tip 2, which is ask specific questions for your follow-up. Say this, for example, I have now completed my application and the final document that I'm waiting for is the certificate of sponsorship. Please, can you provide this certificate of sponsorship or let me know when it will be ready? Another way you can word it is, for example, my start date is HR. My start date is in 4 months. I've completed all my other documents and gathered my finances as well as prepared my application. The final piece I'm waiting for is that certificate of sponsorship. Please, can you let me know when it will be available? I would much appreciate if it was soon so that I can make sure there is no delay for my start date. You get the idea. Again, none of these are hard, fast rules, and you have to gauge the people you're talking to and where you're speaking with. But it's just a rough guide as to what type of way you should be communicating. Very politely, because its reality is that you speak to someone nicely, they're more likely to help you a little bit better and a little bit quicker because they have a lot of things to do. But if you ask me personally, international should be, classified as priority because we need quite a lot more in terms of this application process to get through. But most of the time when you step in through the door, you're working hard and you're working for a very long time. And I imagine if you're abroad in different countries, a lot more confusing. Or if you're in the country and your visa is about to end, it can be very, very worrying if you have not gotten all your documents. But hopefully these little tidbits can help you just make sure you're communicating with your employer very well in a respectable manner. I got a question for this, so I thought I would at least, consider and make a short video on it. Hopefully that can help a little with your application process and just trying to communicate with your employer so that you make sure that you get your things sorted in a very timely manner. And again, before I leave, make sure you try and do things as soon as possible. The government website says you can do it 3 months before. I'd say ignore that. Start applying as soon as you can. Once you get the job, start formulating everything. It makes your life easier because I know people who have they got the job last year and they're only starting this year. It happens. Take care of yourselves, all right? Bye-bye.